Jason, you're gonna talk to us about what was going on in Kansas not too long ago. What happened?
Oh, I am going to talk about what happened in Kansas. And Toto, yes, we are in Kansas, even though it looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit more progressive. And we were going back and forth as to whether or not we were going to call this a step in the right direction. But what happened is abortion got put to a vote in Kansas. And the people said, no, you will not have domain over my body. So they voted that to keep abortion in the state constitution, which everybody is still kind of reeling from. We don't know what happened other than, it looks like the issue of abortion is far from dead with the decision from the Supreme Court. And, it's really flabbergasting. I'm barely able to contain myself. And when I saw this, I'm just like, Kansas is being reasonable.
What?
Let that sink into you. Okay?
What?
Absolutely. And Nate, it actually kind of sounds like you have something to say about this.
I have many things to say about this, but I will point out that Kansas is the home of Dr. Darrell Ray, the founder of Recovering from Religion. So, Kansas hasn't always been all bad. But yeah, I think this is kind of the plus side of the Supreme Court throwing it back to the states and the state of Kansas throwing it to the voters, and then it's spectacularly backfiring for their agenda. Because I looked up a Pew Research poll, and it stated that 69%. Nice, right? 69% of people who identify as Republicans reply that abortion should be legal in most cases, which is, for Republicans, that's pretty good. So this just kind of reiterates to me that this activist court that y'all have down south, it does not represent the values of most American citizens. And I hope that this isn't the only state where their agenda just backfires in legendary fashion. I think it will.
Yeah, Richard, what do you think?
Yeah, as the token European, normally I gloat and go, "Are you still talking about abortion?" But we have this agreement going across Europe for certain human rights, and our government has just whipped out the abortion bit from it. So we have got a similar thing in that we've got a pretty right-wing government who are currently trying to get a new prime minister, and they're trying to out-right-wing each other. Apparently, we've got a crisis of funding. Nobody's got any money, but that's because poor people are lazy. But anyway, I digress. The one thing I see that's similar is that the government we've got and the right-wing conservatives we've got do not represent the conservatives in the same way. I don't think these crazy Republicans represent the mainstream Republican who's kind of a fiscal conservative, not quite as socially liberal as anybody else, and then looks at the hierarchy of the Republicans and goes, what? And I think we've got parallels there, that they're going to be surprised at the way some votes are going to go. If you're lucky, at the midterms as well. So, I'm watching with interest what's happening. Yeah,
I have to say, I think one of the things that I take a little bit of that Schadenfreude here, y'all, where we hear that the Catholic Church, how dare you? The Catholic Church lost $3 million fighting this. The Catholic Church spent so much money fighting against this, right? And all for it to just completely, just like y'all have said, just completely blow up in their face. But one of the things that really stuck out to me was that there was about 25% more votes cast in this kind of amendment thing than there were for like the governor. Like there were more votes that were going for this, which means that apparently a bunch of people just showed up to vote on abortion. What do you guys think? Is this something that we really will see in the polls like this, or is this just kind of a fluke thing? Maybe there's just a few more, left leaning or human rights focused people in Kansas. Jason?
No, because this didn't fall on party lines at all. I mean, yes, there were plenty of true blooded red Republicans who were like, no, abortion must be illegal. But for the fact that so many Republicans voted for this, and like you said, not for the governor, it seems like they care more about how their body is being handled than who actually leads them. I would argue that both are important. I can't really assign a value. Obviously, I don't want people messing with my body. I don't want people messing with my wife's body or, my friends and families, regardless of their point of views. So the fact that this did cross party lines, I don't see this happening in every state. I don't see this happening in, say, Texas, but in states like Missouri that, they're red. Louisiana, maybe. It's so hard to say. We're in such unprecedented waters here, and it's exciting, but you have to be cautiously optimistic.
Georgia too. Georgia's kind of turning purple.
It is, yeah.
True.
Yeah, the fact that they went with Biden in the last election was definitely a shock to everybody.
Or did they?
Well,
dun 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 dun.
no, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, they did. They totally did. Yeah.
Nate, what do you think? Do you think this is something that is we're going to see in other states? Do you think this is a rallying cry that we can have for a lot of people out there that are focused on humanism and so forth? Or
absolutely. As your neighbor to the north, looking down with a mixture of fear and cautious optimism, I think this is really going to embolden folks who are on the center right, who maybe don't necessarily agree with everything that's being said, and this rise of Christian nationalism and religious dogma, and they might have been slightly uncomfortable with it before, but I think seeing the example here, I think that might give them some courage in being able to sort of separate from these wackos on the Supreme Court and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the Creflo Dollar and these wackos, being able to be comfortable in saying, like, no, I don't agree with that. Like, I might agree with traditional conservative values, but no, I don't think that the government should tell me whether I have to have a baby. And as we've said so many times on this show, the right tends to galvanize so much better than progressive folks. And I think that by making this a wedge issue, it's only going to expose and alienate these Christian nationalists from their less fanatical conservatives, which I think is absolutely great because, conservatism isn't all bad. It's not my cup of tea, but we have to be able to disagree and not go to war, right? And that is kind of what makes our Western civilization so successful, is that we can disagree and have a civil discourse and decide amicably what we're going to do about it. And I think this is a step in the right direction in that spirit. Yeah,
for sure. I think that it has been. I've felt kind of a positive feeling since the Supreme Court, made that ruling and really dismantled the right to have an abortion across the country. I don't know that my state of Tennessee is going to be able to pull off a victory like Kansas did. I'm kind of hoping, but I don't know that my optimism is there. Richard, what do you think? How optimistic are you for the U.S. to kind of ride this wave and maybe for it to come across the Atlantic over there? So,
well, sometimes I think that there are things that get people out to the voting booth. Voting for your governor at a primary isn't one of them, but abortion rights is. And I think that's what's going on there. And Democrats seem to me to be very hard to get to a voting booth. You basically have to crowbar them into one and say, will you just please vote? Or have Trump in power for a while. That seems to do it. But this will get the Democrats out. And like you say, do you remember there used to be people on the right who you'd have a conversation with and you'd simply disagree over certain issues? You wouldn't just end up in a shouting match, screaming at them because it's like, what are you talking about? And I'm hoping those people are coming back. I'm hoping the more reasonable voices are part of this Republican voting against, because, really conservatism is government shouldn't be involved in my property and my money and I guess my body. So it's a very conservative view, really. So
yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Maybe even Texas. Who knows?
Cautious optimism. Oh, you bring Texas in there, man. You're sounding optimistic. Jason, what do you got?
Well, yeah, people have wondered if Texas was going to go blue or, turn purple. I don't think it's going to be a full, huge change. But, Richie, you said that, it's important that people get out to vote. And we've seen that the Brits do like to go out to vote. We've seen them name boats and planes in really weird fashion. But, what this has really shown, what this is vitally important, is that it is important that you go out and vote. Now, we won't tell you who to vote for. We won't endorse any candidate. We won't really even endorse a position so much as we say is, obviously we tend to be more progressive here at the ACA, and we tend to go for more humanistic ideas. But what is important is you go out and vote.
Yeah, for sure.
We had a tremendous amount of people vote for the president last time, more than anywhere in U.S. history, and the highest percentage in U.S. history. We had, more people voting on an issue than a person to lead them. Mm-hmm. Your vote matters, and it matters so much more now than probably any point in recent history. I'm not going to go back into, the 1800s, the 1700s to figure out, when the most appropriate time to vote. Now,
let's start with the Etruscans.
Yeah, no, let's not say we didn't.
But speaking of voting,
please, Nate, go ahead.
If we could maybe talk for a second just about how the Republicans tried to steal this one away. They schedule the vote in a typically low turnout month. They changed the title of the referendum from this clumsy Kansas no state constitutional right to abortion. And then when they couldn't push that through, they changed it to value them both, which is a more nebulous title I can't imagine. And although in the article they don't really give details about it, we do have the old, the go-to technique of the Ku Klux Christians voter suppression.
Yeah,
that's right. I said it, Jason. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of funny business going on, but I think the two of you, really wrapped it up well in the sense of, look, if we have the option to vote, people, let's freaking take it every single time that we get it, plain and simple, because that's the only way that we see these types of victories. And again, like Jason said, in Kansas, y'all. I mean, I don't know. I'm happy about it. I think all of us are, and it's definitely a great way to kind of start this episode, because there are some not as great things coming up later on. So make sure you're sticking around, folks.